Joining us now is Hilary Fordwich, President and founder of Strelmark. Hilary, it's great to see you. US President Donald Trump and Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky have spoken one-on-one for the first time since Zelensky was rightfully kicked out of the White House after being reminded by Donald Trump he doesn't have the cards. Now, the conversation unfolded in the Vatican ahead of the funeral of Pope Francis on Saturday, and it was an incredible photograph of the two leaders. Now, the White House said that it was a very productive discussion, and Trump has been really voicing his frustration with Russia recently, and he's been urging Russia to stop the attacks. Hilary, I want to get your assessment of this meeting between Trump and Zelensky, where the relationship really stands between the two leaders at the moment, and also Trump's language around Russia that appears to have stepped up.
Yes, I'm smashing to be back with you again, Gabriella. A few things here. It was actually very interesting to hear President Trump's sort of exact words. He had said, Vladimir, he called him Vladimir, not people. Vladimir, stop. I mean, I personally, being a mother, I thought it was the kind of thing you say to a child in a toddler chair. And it did really verbalize his frustration. I think he's very frustrated. I think that was, yes, and it was particularly after the Easter strikes. Here were just, Christians, regular people going to church on Easter Sunday. And the Russians, after there was a sort of a tentative agreement of a ceasefire, they just killed innocent civilians. And I don't think there's any leader, any nation, or any decent person that would think that that was acceptable. So I think that was a contributing factor. Yes. And then you had this conversation. I think what's interesting is to look at the body language and what came out of it, Gabriella. The body language was definitely of Trump, being engaged and listening. And certainly Zelensky looked, sort of very adamant and strong in his position there. What we've heard and what has come out, and I was actually at the White House Correspondents' Dinner on Saturday night, the general agreement is that, or what we've heard to be in agreement, is that Zelensky, who had said that he would not concede Crimea, is now agreeing that maybe he has to concede in Crimea. And so that everybody remembers, Putin went into Crimea under Obama's watch. And what President Trump has said is, that was not my war. This is not my war. This all happened under Obama, under Biden. It is President Trump that's trying to stop the killing, but the actual war started with Putin going into Crimea under Obama, and Obama did nothing. He was worse than Chamberlain in the Second World War. He didn't even raise a white hanky. He did nothing.
Absolutely. Look, it's interesting. Zelensky says that he's now open to an audit on how Ukraine spends US taxpayer dollars. I'm sure many Americans would like to see that. We know that Ben Shapiro, who's the host of a Daily Wire show, travelled to Ukraine to speak with Zelensky, and he asked him if he would be willing to do an audit on how Ukraine spends US taxpayer dollars, to which Zelensky said, of course, there's nothing to hide. Let's take a listen.
How do you answer those questions? What kind of transparency can you provide to the American people to guarantee that their taxpayer dollars are being used in the best possible way to fight Russia, to defend Ukraine, and to ensure that if the United States wants, would an audit be possible by the United States of where those dollars are going?
We are ready to have any inspections from the very beginning of the war. The inspectors coming from the United States, Europe, and our own inspectors, they're working. We have complete reporting, counting, absolutely transparent within the Ministry of Defense. There is access to all the figures starting from the very first year of the war.
Hilary, do you buy this? Are we really going to get an audit?
Well, he said so. Actually, since the Pentagon in the US hasn't passed an audit for over 7 years, it'd be interesting to see if they could, Zelensky can pass this audit. But it is important that he says yes. Why? Because there has been a lot of attention over here and a lot of reports, and I don't know where they've originated from, of the Ukrainian, many actually ministers being, I've seen reports of them being in Monte Carlo and elsewhere, and you see cars like Bugattis and Maseratis with Ukrainian plates saying, and the caption always is, this is where your taxpayer dollars are going to. Now, where those reports have originated, if they're Russian misinformation, I don't know, Gabriella. That is not something that I've ever seen proven, I've seen any proof of. So I think he was definitely smart to agree to an audit, and I think American taxpayers would feel far better if we did see some audit results. I think that he would garner more support. So it definitely was a smart answer. Whether or not he delivers upon it, that's another question.
Well, speaking of American taxpayers, I'm sure many are thankful that the Trump administration is in power and Trump has been backing Elon Musk to get to work with Doge. And as Elon Musk is right now preparing to kind of step back from his service in the Trump administration, I couldn't agree more with David Marks's piece in Fox News claiming that America owes Elon Musk a debt of gratitude for exposing and ending waste, fraud and abuse. Hillary, can I get your take and your assessment of just the kind of impacts that Elon has made?
Well, Gabriella, it's very interesting to hear you say you're very grateful to David Masters. You couldn't be more grateful, and you're not an American taxpayer, as far as I know. I am. And I totally and utterly agree with you. In fact, even more so because it's my money.
Yes.
You're right. I mean, actually, what's very interesting, what I have seen over the years, living here in America, is actually President Obama, Clinton, Bill Clinton, as well as when Hillary Clinton was running, they've all said for years that there's been fraud, waste, and abuse. And actually, it was President Clinton who let go of 377,000 federal workers. And Obama actually was the one that was called the deporter in chief, all these illegals taking American benefits. So they've all tried to do it. They've all said they were going to do it. President Trump is the only one that was able to do it. Yes, precisely with Elon Musk, who hasn't taken a salary and has basically done this for the good of the nation. I don't know who would say they're not grateful. And quite frankly, my proposition is that any Democrat that isn't grateful, like all those Democrats that sat down when President Trump was talking about tax breaks, they should not receive any discount on taxes, and they should not actually be part of the golden age that's going to come, because they're actually saying that they were happy with the way things were. So let all the benefits come to those of us that believe in, voted for Trump, and appreciate Elon Musk.